Hall of Fame studios, and we're presented by LeBerge Casino, where TK was there Saturday night for the Marshall Tucker Band, and of course the casino was crowded all weekend long with great NFL bets for the playoffs with all that at their sports book. TK, first off, it was a great weekend for NFL football. Not that all the games were great, but we saw some really unique performances, and there was no performance, and today we'll talk about it. There was no performance better than the Buffalo Bills, the first perfect game pitched in the history of NFL football. We'll explain that. Also, Joe Burrow in his first playoff start ever didn't look like he was had any problems, nerves, whatever. He was outstanding. Kim Mulkey, as far as college basketball is concerned, she continues to roll. LSU men's kind of take a step back, have trouble scoring down the stretch. They lose on Saturday to Arkansas. Kim Mulkey beats Vanderbilt, and they just continue to roll. We'll find out later today in the AP poll where both the men and women are. Maybe the women get into the top 10. We'll see. And we'll talk, Cowboys choke. And you've got an interesting stat that you'll tell us about as far as the number of wins in the last 25 years by the Cowboys in the playoffs versus some quarterbacks. You've got some interesting names on that list. And a whole lot more. We'll talk about tonight's game, of course, between the Rams and the Cardinals. And TK, I'll have a pick for you on which way you should lean on for you bettors, because Tommy was on fire, 5-1 over the weekend. TK, did you bet the Buffalo Patriots game?
Yes, I did. Of course, I had LSU, Arkansas. I had the under. We gave that out on Sports Shorts Radio. Right. Went way under. Then I hit the Bengals and the Bills. I hit the Buccaneers first half. Missed the Cowboys first half, but hit the Chiefs first half.
So on Buffalo, let's talk about this since we're baseball guys. The term perfect game in football hasn't really been played. You talk to any coach, they'll tell you there's never been a perfect game. Buffalo may have done that, at least on offense they did. They pitched the first perfect game in NFL history, playoffs or regular season. I was surprised by the fact that no team had ever scored a touchdown on every possession that they had the ball. And that's exactly what Buffalo did against the Patriots and Bill Belichick in the playoffs. Just an unbelievable dominant performance.
Well, it's an amazing stat, and I didn't even know you could have such a thing as an offensive perfect game in football. What it is simply this. The Buffalo Bills all night long did not attempt a field goal, did not attempt a punt, and did not turn the ball over. That's like the perfect offense. And, of course, I'm sure the rating was up. But it was kind of cool. I'd never heard that term, obviously, in football. Obviously, I've heard it in baseball. And just an amazing stat against the guru of the defensive world, Bill Belichick, who, if you do that against the Lions, maybe not as impressive. But, to go do it there in the playoffs, at home, his teams had swapped wins on the road in their two matchups during the season. And I like the Bills because they were at home. It was cold and didn't know they were going to play a perfect game offense. But it's an amazing stat. And as you said earlier, to have it have never happened in the history of the NFL, you do something like that, that's pretty strong.
Buffalo going into the season was one of those teams that a lot of people picked to be a Super Bowl contender. Some had them in the Super Bowl. Remember last year they went to Kansas City and lost in the AFC Championship game and put up a good showing there before Mahomes and all came back and led them to victory. But this win, and remember New England, it was just a month or so ago that New England went into Buffalo and won in that crazy game where they only passed the ball like 3 times with all the wind and everything. So this was a big win for Buffalo to, get back to the Patriots, but also to right the ship. And, people really weren't talking so much about Buffalo in the playoffs per se, but now this win, kind of got them back on track in every way offensively. And now you look at them differently as somebody who absolutely might be the front runner if we're talking today.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly the way they look, but then you say, can they follow that up? Can they do that again? So a very interesting 5 games. I think it's cool, and a lot of people said this over the weekend, that the NFL put a game on Monday night. Now those teams will have a quick turnaround, whoever wins, but they don't care about that. One of them announced yesterday, said, it'll be a short turnaround. It's the NFL playoffs. They'll play tomorrow if they have to, okay? Right. So, it's kind of cool because, I watched football all day yesterday, Ron. They made a big pot of chicken and dumplings because it was cold. And, had a couple bowls of that during the course of the day, and watched football all day long. And then I'm gonna watch the game tonight for sure.
So before we move off the Patriots-Bills game, I'll give credit to Bill Belichick. I mean, I just think anytime in the NFL that you make it to the playoffs with a rookie quarterback as your starter, which he has been the entire year, that's a great job by that young man. Also, a great job by Bill. And this is a franchise right now that's rebooting itself. You know, with Tom Brady leaving 2 years ago, last year was a COVID year. They had a number of players sit out. They went with the Cam Newton experiment. That didn't work. And even with Cam Newton, they were competitive and on the verge of the playoffs. So obviously, I think we all agree Bill is the greatest NFL coach in the modern era. And he proved that once again, much like people are, giving Sean Payton all kind of bouquets for, having a winning season with 4 different quarterbacks. You got a rookie quarterback up in New England, and you made the playoffs. So, and knocked off Buffalo in Buffalo during the year. So I think the Patriots are going to be in good hands, obviously, moving forward. And Mac Jones may not be the guy that's going to be an upper echelon top 5 quarterback in the league at any point in his career, but I think he clearly is a guy that can be a winning quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think if you're a Patriots fan, it's trending in the right direction. Might hurt a little bit to see what Brady's doing down south, but Belichick, he's one of the greatest to ever coach the game. You could argue that he is the greatest based on Super Bowl wins, but and he went to a Super Bowl as an assistant coach too with the Giants, so he's got a pretty sparkling resume.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the other games that were crazy. You won yesterday. The Kansas City Chiefs, they just rolled Ben Roethlisberger in his final game. It really didn't get it going. Till the second half, but the Chiefs looked like you expected. They won they scored 42 points. This was an interesting stat that I didn't realize that they showed during the game, Tommy. The Chiefs, remember all the struggles we had? We had Patrick Mahomes on our show with Sports Shorts Radio on Saturday mornings. He's joined us 3 or 4 times this year. But early in the season, the defense through the first 5 games was the worst in the league as far as points allowed. Absolutely dead last. But yet, the remaining part of the season, the last 2/3 of the season, they were number 1 in the NFL in points allowed. That's incredible. I mean, we talk about worst to first and all that kind of stuff in baseball or divisional races, but to be the worst defense for 5 weeks in the NFL and then to turn it around and be the best, I mean, that's unheard of.
Well, that defense was unbelievable last night. Roethlisberger kind of looked like Drew Brees. Not sure we can make all them throws, At one point, he never threw the ball more than 4 yards past the line of scrimmage. So I think he's going to retire. But here's another interesting thing when I was watching the game. Andy Reid, offensive guru, and Todd McClure, and you just went to a game with Todd last week. He made a comment. He was watching the game, and he, of course, he played center for 15 years. He said he loves watching Andy Reid's offense, he said, because he makes the defense think 1 extra second, which can be the difference of a running back getting through the gap or the receiver being open or whatever. He said that offense is brilliant with the little things they do to make you think that 1 extra second. And 1 second in the NFL is the difference between picking up 2 yards or picking up 8 yards. I thought that was a good comment by Todd because, again, he's got more knowledge when he's watching it than I have. So, but, man, the Chiefs just rolled. After the slow start, the scoop and score, you got the Steelers on the board, but for the first 3 quarters, the Steelers' offense was non-existent.
The Steelers' offense, if it wasn't for and that's kind of about what I expected. The Steelers' offense have been clunky, but great story by them. I'm curious to see what the Steelers become on offense, Tommy, because we're so used to Ben being the quarterback there for almost 2 decades, almost 20 years. And you got a guy, and in the last 3 years, they've just dismantled all of their weapons, on offense for the most part, other than a couple of receivers. So, who will they go? Veteran quarterback? Will they go rookie quarterback? They got the same questions that a lot of franchises have, but Mike Tomlin is well thought of, well respected in the league. He's one of the best coaches, a top 3-4 coach in the NFL. He's a guy who a lot of, I think, quarterbacks around the league, free agents will want to play for. And then it's a plug and play. You got a decent defense. You got a great city. You got a good, one of the classiest organizations in the league. So no doubt, you might be surprised by who is interested in playing in Pittsburgh because you're thinking more West Coast, East Coast, but I guarantee you Pittsburgh's going to have their pick of the litter at that position. Joe Burrow wins his first playoff start ever, and looked good, had to hang on. The defense made the play down the stretch when the Raiders were trying to tie it there at the end. But the Joe Burrow story lives on. The question becomes, how magical will this movie be? What will the finish be like? Do you think he has the firepower and the team around him this year to knock off a Buffalo or a Kansas City?
Well, they got to play Tennessee, right? Isn't that who they play next?
Yes. I'm checking to make sure.
I'm checking too. I guess I should have looked that up before. Yeah. Well, no, let me see here. Yeah. No, the Bengals play. Yeah, they play at Tennessee 3:30 on Saturday. Look, I can't say I don't think Joe Burrow has a shot to win the game. I can't say he won't throw for 300, 400 yards. He might not, but don't be surprised if he does. Now the Titans play good defense. They'll be at home. They've had a week off to ramp up some bumps and bruises because they had to bye. But do not count Joe Burrow and the Bengals out. I mean, Zach Taylor and a couple of players were going to the little local dive bars and giving out footballs to fans in Cincinnati after the game. I mean, 31 years. I mean, right? That's a long time from winning a playoff game. And they were fired up, and, it was a close game, but they found a way to get it done. And, Chase was good. Mixon was good. Other guys were good. And here's the thing, Ronnie, and I posted this last night. I got a lot of reaction. Joe Burrow is the first former LSU quarterback to start and win an NFL playoff game since the 1983 playoffs. After the 82 season, David Woodley with the Miami Dolphins, Shreveport guy, was no longer with us. He and Ensminger rotated at LSU in the late 70s. And so I posted that. I got a lot of reaction. One guy goes, wow, that's been a long time, So you got to go back to 83 before former LSU quarterback did what Joe Burrow did for the Bengals Saturday.
That's incredible. When you told me that, I couldn't believe it. David Woodley, who was not really considered a great quarterback by any means, he happened to be on a Miami team. I remember talking to Nat Moore about it. They were teammates, and Nat played wide receiver, so naturally he and David were friends. And Nat was the greatest receiver in Dolphins history, for the first 30 years of the franchise. They just they won with defense, and they obviously they had Don Shula as their coach, but and basically they were led by you had AJ Due on the other side, playing linebacker, who was one of the leaders, and then you had and then of course you had Woodley on the offense. But to think of all the good quarterbacks that have come through LSU since that time in the late 70s, to think that David Woodley's the guy that won the most playoffs in the last 50 years is incredible.
He wasn't even a regular at LSU. He and Steve Ensminger rotated a lot. But here's the other thing. So, he won 3 playoff games, and they lost to the Redskins in the Super Bowl. But then the Dolphins drafted some guy named Marino, and Woodley ended up with the Steelers, and that was it, and passed away in 2003.
He went to Byrd High School, Byrd High School, he wasn't even the best quarterback to ever come out of Byrd High School.
But he went until yesterday.
Not Byrd High School.
But Burrow's got to get 2 more wins to tie him as a starter.
Right. 44 years old when he passed away. Too young. Can
we talk Cowboys? You're killing me.
Yeah, all right. I know you want to bang on Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, God. So let's do it. Take me through why you're so excited that the Cowboys lost and choked at the end.
Well, it's just 2 parts. It's Prescott on the field, Prescott off the field. He made major blunders in both, and he's getting tore up today. I don't know a lot of things right, but he's going to apologize today about the comment when he was asked after the game about the fans throwing batteries at the refs as they exited the field. And he said, credit to them, meaning he thought it was good that the fans did that. He's got to walk that back. On the field, he just made a major blunder at the end, a mental. We always talk about, when I coached baseball forever, you did baseball IQ. You got to know what's going on. You got to know the rules. Football IQ, it deserted him on that final play when he ran up the middle. They were guarding the sidelines. Got a chance to win. Touchdown, extra point, they win. And he totally made a mental blunder when he went up the field and left the football on the ground. He should have turned around. The umpire that spots it is coming from behind him. You got to flip it to him so he can get it spotted. It is by rule. Tony Romo was on it. Umpire must spot the ball before you can snap it. Well, he left it on the ground, and then they took that extra 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds to get there, and they couldn't clock it, to try to get one last play. So he ran too far. Like McCarthy said after the game, a Hail Mary from 50 yards is not as much of a chance if you can run 5 verticals from 25 yards. And I get that. That's true.
Right.
But, Prescott, and then he bumbled the post game. If you get to hit, he's like, well, we practiced that, but, we didn't know. I mean, he sounded like a 4th grader trying to explain it to people, but his mental IQ went out the window. I'm not saying that's what cost the Cowboys the game, but it certainly hurt at a critical time. They punted with 10 minutes to go, down 2 scores. Maybe that shouldn't have been done. It's easy to coach Monday. I get it. But Dak Prescott, he's getting a lot of grief for the comment about throwing the stuff at the refs off the field, and then the football IQ or lack thereof on the field.
His quote was, when you've practiced it as much as we've done over and over again, you're not necessarily worried about it, Prescott said. He said, quote, you trust your training that you put into it. I mean, the rest of it, you don't prepare for things like colliding with the umpire, but I guess we'll start having to, knowing the way this played out. Listen, at the end of the day, even if they do get that playoff, Tommy, I don't know, what do you put the percentage of them completing that pass? Probably 10%, maybe less than that, maybe,
somewhere between 5 and 15%. But
yeah.
Like Jerry Jones did say, they should have never been in that spot, with lots of other mistakes. And that's what, this is a lesson to everybody. Prescott royal screw up at the end. But if you really want to win the game, don't be in that spot,
Right.
Take care of business the other 3 quarters in 14 minutes or 14 and a half minutes. So, hey, it's just a lot of people, Cowboys, a lot of people like to see them lose. There's some funny stuff on social media. I just got to say one, right? They had like a meme on Facebook. Guy had the phone in his ear. And he says, hey, man, did the Dallas Cowboys, did they lose today or did they not win? I fell out the sofa,
Chance with the Les Miles clock management for the Cowboys.
Chance, you're 100% correct. And when they faked that punt, this was another blunder. They fake the punt, it converts. Okay, first down, Cowboys. Well, they leave the punt team out there with the intent of the 49ers wasting a timeout. Well, the 49ers, okay. And then, like with 14 seconds to go, the whole punt team runs off, the whole offense runs on. Of course, they run it into each other on the way. You got like 22 guys between the sideline and the middle of the field. And then by the time they get set up, delay a game. So, I mean, that's on McCarthy, or the special teams coach. I mean, that's just – you can't do that and win playoff games in the NFL or any league for that matter.
All right.
They're talking about getting rid of McCarthy and promoting Kellen Moore. That's the buzz right now in Dallas.
We'll see. Jerry's going to do what Jerry wants to do. You're paying a lot of money for McCarthy to be there a couple of years and not get it done. Jerry
Jones said, he said, we got way too good of a team to not be advancing. He has put the players together. And can I go with that other quote, Ryan? I got to go with it. I got to pull it up. Yeah. It's okay. In the last 25 years, of the NFL playoffs, the following quarterbacks have more wins than the whole Dallas Cowboy team. Jake Delhomme, Louisiana guy. Is he in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Okay. Jake Delhomme's got 5. Trent Dilfer's got 5. Mark Sanchez 4. Brad Johnson, who we saw all year in Tiger Stadium, has 4. Colin Kaepernick has 4. The Cowboys, Ronnie, 3.
Wow.
Dallas,
Jake Delhomme, Brad Johnson, Trent Dilfer, Colin Kaepernick.
Mark Sanchez has got more wins.
Sanchez. By the way, Mark Sanchez, I got a Mark Sanchez story for you. When LSU played at a national championship in the Dome a couple of years ago, I went to a party that a friend of mine had at a little nightclub, and there was this guy in the corner. We had like a little VIP section, and there was this guy in the corner, and I'm like, God, he looks familiar. And then I think Josh Booty was near me, and I asked him, and he said, that's Mark Sanchez. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, that's right. And he was in town doing some TV work for Fox or whatever. And So the whatever time it ends, or we decide we're going to head back, and we got an Uber, and like 3 of us or 4 of us were going in the same direction, so we shared an Uber. And Mark says, "Hey man, can y'all drop me off at my hotel on the way or whatever?" So we're like, "Okay." So he gets in the car, and I had a 10-minute Uber ride with him. The strangest conversation in the history of the world. And he'd be like, well, maybe he was drunk or something. Like, okay, he had a few pops or whatever, but I don't think it was that. This dude is just weird. I mean, it was like surfer guy meets drunk guy meets a hippie guy, all rolled into one. And I mean, it's such a weird conversation. We all were looking at each other in the car, like, what? It was bizarre. So anyway, but he won more playoff games today than the Cowboys.
Dallas Cowboys. So, but let that sink in,
people. Unbelievable. All right, let's get 2 more takes before we go. One is Kim Mulkey and the LSU Lady Tigers. They continue to roll. Impressive. She wins on Pat Summitt Day in the league. LSU men's basketball drops at home against Arkansas. Did not play well in the second half, even though they had a 2-point lead at halftime. To me, Tommy, it looked like LSU just couldn't find a scorer. They just didn't have anybody that can score the basketball, and that's my concern. They're playing much better defense. They didn't play very good defense against the 3 in the second half, and that's what cost them the game against Arkansas. They just didn't step out on the shooters. They do a lot of switching, and they did not switch real good. But just not having that go-to person. Eason gets his points, but it's more blue collar. It's not just throw it in, everybody get on one side of the court and he takes them. I just don't know that they have they just don't have a guy that to feed it to when they have to have it.
You're right. No, late in the second half, they had about a 7-minute stretch when they didn't score a point.
Right.
Now, you can't do that, okay? Even though you're playing great defense, you got to score the basketball. And that hurt. And you're right. I mean, they struggle to shoot, which they better be damn glad they got an outstanding defense, one of the best defenses in the conference and in the country. Because then if they can get the ball in the hole, they're going to have, win a lot of games. But, big crowd on hand, and it just didn't work down the stretch for the Tigers. Keith Smart, interim coach for Arkansas, because the head coach had the COVID, so he stepped in. A McKinley High School guy from Louisiana who's got some good memories in Louisiana. He hit the shot to win the national title for Indiana in the Superdome in '87, and he gets a win at the PMAC Saturday. So Will Wade and them, they got a tough 2-game stretch coming up. They're going to have to get it together.
That was one of the games you won. One of the 5 games you went 5-1 picking games, betting on games this week. You've been on fire, and that was one you took the under, and you won that easily. I actually took the under in the second half. At halftime, they had scored 62 points. The over/under, Tommy, in the second half was 75.5. So I'm like, yeah, we're going to go under here, and we won that easily as well.
Ronnie, you and I started talking about this a couple of years ago. Those of you who like to bet out there, really look at the first half line, second half line. I know people that love to bet the second half because they've seen the half of the game. And they can get a little feel for it, Yeah. And me, I like the first half line. I like money line sometimes when I think I can get some value. But it's fun, And what's
interesting, Tommy, is that obviously the second half line is scarier than the first half line because of overtime, right? And in any sport, so that's why it's usually always higher. And you're going to get burnt. There's no perfect formula. You're going to have those games where you're like, where did that come from? I watched the first half and the second half was just absolutely completely different. But most of the time it's not. If you watch the first half, no matter the sport, and you get a feel for what's going on and what's working and what's not, and who's hurt and who's playing and all that kind of stuff that you don't have prior to the kickoff, you can usually judge it right for the second half. But you're going to have those games where it just flips on you. That's why the over/under bet is better than the who's going to win the second half bet.
And you might want to look at the over/under tonight on the Rams-Cardinals game. But, I got lucky in the Chiefs game. With 3 minutes and 10 seconds ago, I'm thinking I done lost the first half bet because it was 7.5. And I'm like, okay, even if they go up 7, I'm down a half a point. I didn't buy the half, okay? And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 and big touchdown. And I'm like, I got, that was a lucky win. Good luck, but it was, it wasn't a certain when, the Bucks, I had that minus 7.5 first half. I was in a rocking chair for that one. I mean, I had that one. And I had the Bills minus 3.5. I was in a rocket chair at halftime. I knew that was over.
All right, so for those folks that are watching, give us a winner for tonight. We got San Francisco 49ers and the Rams. The Rams are a 3.5-point favorite at home. The last time these two teams played in early December, the Rams won by 7.
Yes, 30-23.
Yeah, the over-under is 48. What do you like better, the over-under or the line in this game?
We know we're going to have some stuff at meatandpotatoesusa.com where we've been on fire. Meatandpotatoesusa.com. Check it out. Money back guarantee. You buy a pick for tonight's game. We'll have a couple of them posted. If it's not correct, you get the full refund. You can't go wrong. Man, Ronnie, you and I were discussing earlier. I mean, I'm looking at the over-under. I mean, I can see a case for the Rams, but what Matthew Stafford do we get? The Cardinals, really great the first 9-10 weeks of the year, and then he kind of, a little inconsistent after that. Kyler Murray, he's spectacular. What do we get from him? You got two guys, Stafford, Murray, who could, set records tonight, or they could be like Prescott and screw it up. So, right. It's a tough one to pick, but I'd kind of lean to the under, which is typical in the playoffs. There's a little nerves, a little uncertainty. Weather's going to be perfect. They're indoors. That's not an issue. So I might lean to the under, but I'm not certain yet. Check meatandpotatoesusa.com.
Well, I'm not as hot as Tommy is on his picks, but I did have a winning weekend. I'll take the Cardinals plus 3.5. That way you get a little something.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Playoff games, you get a lot of close ones. I say that, and we look at some of the games this weekend, but I'm not buying the Rams. You're
not buying Odell Beckham Jr.?
They just have been clunky the last month, Yeah, I mean, and they just have been Stafford and the team have been clunky, so I think it's going to go down to the wire. I'm going to take the Cardinals. Can get me the 3.5. I like that.
And that over and under is right in the spot where you can. They scored 53 the last time they played, so that would be over. That's why they call it gambling, Ronnie. That's why we have fun, and we do it on Sports Choice Radio, and we do it here, and it gives people fun, and you get happy when you win and sad when you lose.
All right, 30 seconds. Bengals, Titans, just an early outlook. Chances asking for our opinion on that. The Titans are a 3.5-point favorite at home. They're 12-5, and the Bengals come in 11-7, 10-7, something like that.
11-7, yeah.
11-7.
So yeah, don't count Joe Burrow out. That's all I'll say. He's kind of like Kim Mulkey. Don't be surprised at anything he does or anything he accomplishes.
Yeah, I think this is one that I'm going to be pulling so hard for the Bengals that I might go with an over/under bet because I don't want to pick against them.
Plus, you got to get the weather forecast. That's big right. On these outdoor games.
The biggest forecast is, will Derrick Henry play? He's expected to play.
They're saying yes, but that's another thing you keep an eye on. You don't have to make the bet till 5 minutes before kickoff. Right. That might be one of the ones you wait on a little more than some other times. You just kind of know what you want to do. I
want to see the weather, and I want to see Derrick Henry play, but I'm leaning towards the Titans winning the game because they're at home. They're rested. It is the playoffs. It is Joe and them's first time on the road in the playoffs. The place is going to be rocking and going crazy. So the Titans have a great coach, great defense. And they did not play during the regular season, by the way. So this is going to be a fun game, but I probably might go over under just because I want to put my Who Day T-shirt on and pull for Chase and Burrow. TK, tell us about Tremonti's before we get out of here.
Tremonti's not open for lunch today. Got a little staffing issue, but they fully expect to be ready to roll tomorrow. But you can call in and place a catering or just connect with Tremonti's on Facebook or Instagram. And don't forget, meatandpotatoesusa.com. Check it out if you want to money back guarantee, or if you buy a pick for tonight's game. A lot of picks were bought this weekend. We didn't give any money back, Ronnie.
By the way, you need to go to Stadium Sports Bar and Grill inside LeBear's tonight. Great place to watch the playoffs, no question about it.
Hey, I was at LeBear's the other night. It was fun.
What'd you go see?
Marshall Tucker Band. Yeah. I sent you a picture. The girl I was with caught the tambourine from Doug Gray at the end of the concert. It was packed. I saw a lot of people. I know I saw an old baseball teammate of mine. I saw lots of people I knew out there because that's the age that wants to go see the Marshall Tucker Band. But the casino did a great job. It was well organized, easy to get in and out. And then everybody spilled it. The casino was crowded, not just the concert. So it was a fun night out there at LeBear's. And I'll be out there this Sunday to do radio. Where are we at Saturday for Sports Shorts Radio?
Saturday we'll be at LeBear's,
Okay, well then I'm gonna be back
Well,
Sunday.
actually, you know what? Saturday we'll be at a new sponsor that we'll tell you all about, Mr. Carter's Barbershop in Prairieville. We'll tell you all about it on Wednesday. Actually, we'll have him on, but we'll be in Prairieville at a brand new spot, Mr. Carter's Barbershop. He used to work at one of our old sponsors' locations and started his own, got a bar in it and all. Really cool. We'll tell you all about it on Wednesday.
But I'll be out there Sunday, the LSU baseball first pitch banquet, which is sold out, but it is Sunday night at LeBear's. And Skip and Cano and I'll do radio from 4 to 6. We're going to have a couple of the LSU baseball assistants. Fitzgerald and Kelly will join us. Johnson's a maybe. And Skip's going to join me for the second hour, 4 to 6 on ESPN 104.5 FM in Baton Rouge. But hold the rope. We'll schedule change because of the first pitch banquet. And, of course, Sports Shorts Radio, Saturday, 10 to 12.
Y'all need to make sure you have a speaker system and all set up so
we're working on all that video, the whole thing. Yeah, I had a long conversation with Gordy Rush last night.
Mm-hmm. All right, brother. We'll see you on Wednesday, and good luck on your picks tonight, everybody. We'll be back with you Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. for more Sports Shorts Daily presented by LeBear's Casino. Please help like